The sky burned orange as another Dominion warship entered Earth's atmosphere. Captain Jack Mason watched from the cracked window of what had once been Earth's Space Defense Command. His hands gripped the metal railing until his knuckles turned white. "They're landing at the old airport now," Lisa Reed said, joining him at the window. Her face was smudged with dirt, and a thin scar ran from her right eye to her jaw. A gift from their failed last stand 3 months ago. "That makes 5 ships today." Jack nodded. "They're here for the last of our fleet." Outside, the sleek purple ships of the Dominion hovered over Earth's cities like giant predators. They didn't look like they had been built. They looked like they had been born. Not a single weld line or rivet showed on their perfect hulls. "It's time," Jack said, straightening his torn uniform. "Let's go hear what our new masters have to say." The meeting place was once a grand United Nations building. Now half of it was missing, blown away during the invasion. The remaining half had been quickly repaired with Dominion technology that made the human construction look like a child's attempt with building blocks. Lord Vex stood at the center of the room. Like all Dominion leaders, he was tall and thin with skin that shifted colors slightly as he moved. Right now, it glowed a confident gold. Jack and the other military commanders from around the world filed in and stood in a half circle before Vex. None of them had slept in days. Some still wore bandages. "Earth representatives," Vex said, his voice clear but emotionless. "The war is over. Your planet is now part of the Dominion. Your courage was notable, if ineffective." A murmur of anger passed through the human group, but no one spoke up. What was there to say? Earth's military had thrown everything they had at the Dominion. Their best ships, weapons, and soldiers had barely scratched the alien fleet. "The terms are simple," Vex continued. "Humans will provide resources and basic labor. You will not develop new technology. You will not leave your solar system. You will not resist." Jack stepped forward. "And if we refuse?" Vex's skin rippled blue for a moment, the equivalent of a laugh. "Then instead of becoming useful members of the Dominion, you become extinct. The choice is yours, Captain Mason." Jack felt the eyes of the other commanders on him. As the former leader of Earth's Space Defense Force, many looked to him now. 6 billion lives hung on his next words. "We accept your terms," he said, the words like ash in his mouth. "Wise," said Vex. "My ships will collect all military technology from your bases worldwide. Anything that functions will be taken. Anything broken beyond repair, you may keep." His skin flickered with blue again. "We are not unreasonable. You can have the junk." 3 days later, Jack stood in the rain watching as Dominion ships hauled away the last of Earth's functioning warships. Next to the landing pads were enormous piles of damaged equipment that the aliens had deemed worthless. Broken engine cores, cracked weapon housings, ships with their hulls torn open. "They're efficient," Lisa said, joining him under his umbrella. As Earth's leading engineer on the now-destroyed orbital defense platform, she had worked with Jack for years. "They're taking anything that works and leaving anything that would take effort to repair." "They think we're stupid," Jack said quietly. "They think we're primitives who got lucky with a few technologies." Lisa looked at the mountain of discarded technology. "Well, compared to them, maybe we are." "No," Jack said firmly. "Different, not stupid. They build everything to be perfect. Every piece of their technology is elegant, efficient, but that's not the only way to solve a problem." Lisa raised an eyebrow. "What are you saying?" Before Jack could answer, Lord Vex approached them, flanked by 2 guards. Unlike the guards' shifting blue skin, Vex remained a steady gold. "Captain Mason." "Engineer Reed." Vex gestured to the piles of scrap. "Your soldiers ask if they can take some of this broken equipment. For what purpose, I wonder?" "Souvenirs," Jack said quickly. "Reminders of our defeat." "Ah," Vex said, his golden skin rippling slightly. "How sentimental. Yes, take it all if you wish. Your primitive minds couldn't possibly do anything useful with it." As Vex walked away, Lisa turned to Jack with fire in her eyes. I want to prove him wrong so badly. Jack watched the Dominion ships rising into the evening sky. We will, he said quietly, round up every engineer, programmer, and scientist who survived. Tell them to meet us at the old mining complex in the Rocky Mountains. Why there? Because it's deep, it's isolated, and the Dominion thinks it's just a simple mine now. Jack's eyes never left the departing ships. They expect us to mine resources for them. We'll do that on the surface. But underground, we're going to do something else. What exactly? Jack finally looked at her, a dangerous smile forming on his face. We're going to take their junk and build nightmares. The abandoned mining complex was cavernous. Its largest chamber could have held 3 football fields. Now it held something else, piles of broken Dominion technology, hauled in secretly over 2 months. Before Jack stood 30 of Earth's greatest minds. Engineers, physicists, computer scientists. All had lost something to the Dominion. All had a reason to fight. They think we're beaten, Jack said, his voice echoing in the vast space. They think we're primitive. But humans have one advantage they don't understand. We know how to make do with what we have. We know how to improvise. He pointed to the alien technology piled around them. They gave us their scraps because they couldn't imagine what we might do with them. Their technology is perfect, designed to work exactly one way. But we're going to make it work our way. Lisa stepped forward. I've been studying their engine cores. They're designed to work in harmony, in perfect balance. But what if we deliberately unbalance them? Create controlled chaos. Mark Davis, a programmer who had lost his wife in the invasion, nodded eagerly. Their computer systems reject anything that doesn't follow their logic patterns. But I think we can create hybrid systems, part human, part Dominion, that they wouldn't recognize or know how to counter. Exactly, Jack said. We're not going to build pretty ships. We're going to build monsters, nightmares, things that shouldn't work but do. He looked around at the determined faces. This will take years. We'll have to work in secret, maintain the pretense of defeat. And then, asked an older woman, Dr. Wilson, who had once designed Earth's defense satellites. Jack's face hardened. And then we take back our world, one ship at a time. A hush fell over the group as they considered the enormity of what he proposed. Then Lisa stepped forward. I'm in, she said simply. One by one, the others joined her. Soon all 30 stood in a circle, hands joined. They gave us junk, Jack said. We'll build nightmares, they answered as one. Outside, a Dominion patrol ship passed overhead. Its scanners sweeping the mountains. It detected nothing but a simple mining operation and moved on, never imagining what was beginning deep below. 5 years passed. On the surface, Earth seemed to have accepted its place in the Dominion. Humans mined their planet's resources, handed them over to their alien masters, and kept their heads down. The Dominion inspection ships came less often now. Earth was considered a solved problem. Deep underground, beneath 3 different mountain ranges across the planet, a different story was unfolding. Mark Davis hadn't seen daylight in 3 days. His eyes burned from staring at screens where lines of code, part human, part alien, scrolled endlessly. The room around him was lit by the blue glow of salvaged Dominion power cells. 20 other programmers worked nearby, all focused on the same impossible task. Any progress? Lisa Reed asked, entering the room. Her hair was streaked with gray now, though she was only 36. Stress had aged them all. Mark rubbed his eyes. I think so. Look at this. He tapped a command, and on a large central screen, a simulation began running. A virtual ship, nothing like the sleek Dominion vessels, but a rough, asymmetrical thing, performed a series of maneuvers that should have been impossible. How are you getting that much speed? Lisa asked, leaning closer. I'm not using their navigation systems the way they were designed, Mark explained. The Dominion builds everything to be balanced, perfect. But I found that if you deliberately create imbalance in their drive systems, you get these energy spikes. He pointed to a graph showing wild fluctuations. They consider this a catastrophic failure. I'm treating it as a feature. Lisa smiled. Jack needs to see this. He's back from the mining inspection. In another part of the complex, Captain Jack Mason, still called Captain though Earth no longer had a military, was studying a large holographic display showing the solar system. Red dots indicated known Dominion patrol routes. They'd gotten lazy, he said as Lisa and Mark entered. Their patrol patterns are predictable now. They don't expect trouble from us anymore. They'll get trouble all right, Lisa said. Mark's made a breakthrough with the navigation systems. Show him. Mark ran the simulation again. Jack watched with increasing interest as the ugly, misshapen virtual ship performed maneuvers no Dominion vessel could match. It's like watching a drunk dancer, Jack said. Unpredictable, but somehow effective. Their targeting systems would struggle to lock onto movement patterns like that. Exactly, Mark said. And there's more. We found a way to integrate their power cores with our old nuclear technology. It's unstable, dangerous even, but twice as powerful, Lisa finished. They gave us broken parts expecting junk. We're building monsters instead. Jack nodded slowly. How close are we to a working prototype? 6 months, Lisa said. Maybe less. Good, Jack said, turning back to the holographic display. Because we found something. He zoomed in on an area near Jupiter. Our observers at the outer mining stations caught a Dominion supply ship dropping off equipment at this location. It's not on any of their official routes. What are they building out there? Mark asked. We don't know, Jack replied. But whatever it is, they're keeping it secret even from their own people, which means we need to find out. The next morning, Jack led Lisa and Mark through a massive underground hangar where hundreds of people worked on what appeared to be piles of junk. But looking closer, one could see patterns emerging from the chaos. In the center of the hangar sat their first prototype, the Nightmare one. It looked nothing like a proper spaceship. Parts of its hull were exposed, showing a maze of wiring and tubes. Different sections were different colors, salvaged from various sources. Where Dominion ships were elegant and symmetrical, this was a hodgepodge of angles and protrusions. It's ugly, said a voice behind them. They turned to see Tom Fletcher, a former civilian pilot who had lost his family during the invasion. But I'm guessing that's the point. Beauty isn't the goal, Jack confirmed. This ship needs to do things the Dominion can't predict or understand. Tom walked around the vessel, examining it with an expert's eye. The engines are massive compared to the hull size. Overcharge, Lisa explained. We're running their power cores hot, way beyond safety parameters. A Dominion engineer would have a heart attack seeing this design. And that's our advantage, Jack added. They'd follow rules. We're breaking them. Tom nodded. When do we fly? We need a pilot crazy enough to test it, Jack said with a slight smile. Tom's eyes lit up. I volunteer. 3 months later, in the dead of night, the mountain above the secret base split open, a hidden door large enough for a ship to pass through. The Nightmare One rose slowly from its underground home, its engines glowing an angry red instead of the cool blue of Dominion technology. Inside the cramped cockpit, Tom Fletcher gripped controls that were part salvaged Dominion interface, part human design. The ship hummed around him, vibrating in a way that felt dangerous, alive. This is Nightmare One, he said into his headset. Ready for test flight. From the control room, Jack's voice responded. Remember, stay within the atmosphere. Keep below their orbital sensors. All we need to know is if this thing flies without exploding. Copy that, Tom said, then added, but if it does explode, I can't think of a better way to go. He pushed the engines to quarter power. The ship shot forward with such acceleration that Tom was slammed back into his seat. Warnings flashed across his screen. Heat levels rising. Power fluctuations. Structural integrity compromised. The Dominion would have shut the engines down immediately. Tom grinned and pushed them harder. The ugly ship tore through the night sky, performing maneuvers that defied conventional aerodynamics. It didn't bank gracefully like Dominion ships. It jerked, it stuttered, it sometimes seemed to skip through the air. But it flew, and it was fast. Faster than anything Earth had built before. Faster, perhaps, than the Dominion's own vessels. When Tom finally landed back at the base 2 hours later, the entire team was waiting. As he climbed out, sweating and laughing, they swarmed around him. "It's insane," he told them. "It doesn't fly like anything I've ever piloted. It's like riding a bull during an earthquake. But it works." Jack turned to Lisa and Mark, his eyes gleaming with a hope that had been absent for 5 years. "Begin full production. We need 50 more like this within 6 months. 50. Lisa asked. "We barely have enough salvaged parts for 10. "Then we'll need more parts," Jack said grimly. "It's time to start hitting their supply ships. Small raids, nothing that would trigger a full response." He looked around at the determined faces of his team. "For 5 years, we've been building in secret. Now we begin phase 2. Testing our nightmares against the real thing." Mark nodded. "They won't know what hit them." "No," Jack agreed, "because we're not fighting by their rules anymore." Outside, the sun was rising over a world that appeared defeated. But underground, humanity's darkest, most brilliant creation was taking shape. A fleet of ships that shouldn't work, shouldn't fly, shouldn't fight. A fleet of nightmares. 10 years after the invasion, the Dominion patrol ship Bright Sentinel moved through Jupiter's orbit on its regular route. Inside, Commander Relk's skin shifted to a bored gray as he logged another uneventful patrol. "Scan the moons again," he ordered his crew. "Then we can return to base." The sensor officer began the scan, then paused. "Commander, there's an odd reading from the storm system. Might be a sensor malfunction." Relk sighed. "Run diagnostics. These ships are too old for this outer patrol duty." The sensor officer never got to run the diagnostics. From within Jupiter's swirling storms, 12 ships emerged, if you could call them ships. They looked like no vessels the Dominion had ever built. Jagged, asymmetrical, with parts clearly salvaged from different sources, they resembled floating junk heaps more than warships. Relk's skin flashed alarm red. "Impossible," he whispered. The human ships, for they could only be human, moved in patterns that defied prediction. They didn't form neat attack formations like Dominion vessels would. Instead, they swarmed like angry insects, each following its own chaotic path. "Open communications," Relk ordered. "Unknown vessels, this is." The human ships opened fire, but instead of the clean energy beams of Dominion weapons, these fired strange hybrid projectiles. Physical shells surrounded by energy fields that overwhelmed the Dominion shields through sheer brute force, rather than elegant penetration. The Bright Sentinel never sent a distress call. On the bridge of Nightmare Actual, Jack Mason watched the Dominion patrol ship explode on his viewscreen. "First blood," he said quietly. Lisa stood beside him, her eyes fixed on the readings from their ships. All Nightmare vessels report systems functioning within acceptable parameters. She allowed herself a small smile. "Well, acceptable to us anyway. A Dominion engineer would be having a fit." "Any sign of other patrols?" Jack asked. Tom Fletcher, now fleet commander of the fighter-class Nightmare vessels, checked his scanners. Nothing in range. They weren't expecting trouble here. Not after 10 years. Jack nodded. "Begin salvage operations. I want everything we can use from that wreckage." Then back to hiding positions. As the Nightmare fleet moved to collect valuable parts from the destroyed Dominion ship, Jack stared out at Jupiter's swirling storms. The gas giant had proven to be the perfect hiding place. Its massive storms interfered with Dominion sensors, and its radiation would have damaged their sensitive instruments if they ventured too close. But the Nightmare ships, with their crude shielding and redundant systems, could handle it. "Do you think they'll figure it out?" Lisa asked quietly. Not immediately, Jack replied. One missing patrol ship isn't enough to raise a major alarm. They'll send investigators, assume it was a navigation error or equipment failure. And then, Jack's face hardened. Then we take more of them, one by one, building our strength until we're ready for something bigger. In the Dominion Command Center on Earth, Lord Vex studied the report of the missing patrol with mild concern. His skin rippled with brief flashes of yellow, the color of analytical thought. No distress call. He asked the officer before him. None, my lord. The ship simply failed to return or report. Vex dismissed the idea of human involvement immediately. In 10 years, the primitives had shown no sign of rebellion. They worked in their mines, provided resources as demanded, and kept to themselves. Their military capability had been thoroughly dismantled. Send a search vessel to its last known coordinates, Vex ordered. Most likely a navigation error took them too close to the gas giant. These outer system patrols are monotonous. Crew error increases. Yes, my lord. After the officer left, Vex turned to look out at the Earth skyline. The humans had proven to be disappointingly docile. He had almost hoped for more resistance. It would have made subjugating them more satisfying. When 3 more Dominion patrols disappeared near Jupiter over the next month, Vex could no longer dismiss it as coincidence. He ordered a battle group, 5 warships, to investigate. The battle group entered Jupiter's orbit with weapons charged and shields at maximum. They expected pirates, perhaps, or some natural phenomenon. What they found were monsters waiting in the storm. This time, the Nightmare Fleet didn't bother hiding. 15 vessels, ranging from fighter size to one massive capital ship, emerged from Jupiter's clouds. Each was uglier than the last, asymmetrical horrors built from salvaged parts, their hulls bearing scorch marks and hasty repairs. On the bridge of the lead Dominion warship, Captain Marne's skin paled to white shock. Those are human designs. His second-in-command zoomed in on the images, mixed with our technology. But how? They couldn't possibly understand. Open fire, Marne ordered. All ships, full attack pattern. The Dominion vessels moved with perfect coordination, forming a flawless attack formation. Their weapons charged with the same beautiful synchronization that made Dominion technology so superior. The human fleet did the opposite. Each ship moved independently, following no discernible pattern, where Dominion ships aimed for clean kills, targeting engines or command centers. The human vessels tore into their enemies with savage, unpredictable attacks. From the bridge of the newly completed Nightmare Actual, Jack watched the battle unfold. They still don't understand, he said to Lisa. They're fighting by the book. We burned the book, she replied, gripping the console as their ship shuddered under enemy fire. The massive Nightmare flagship shouldn't have been able to move as it did, rolling to present its strongest shields, then suddenly jerking in the opposite direction when the Dominion adjusted their aim. Its engines glowed an angry red, occasionally belching flames when pushed beyond safe limits. All ships, execute Plan Chaos, Jack ordered over the fleet channel. The Nightmare vessels broke their loose formation entirely, each acting as if operated by a madman. They took hits, many hits, but their crude, overlapping shield systems and heavily armored hulls absorbed damage that would have destroyed more elegant ships. And they hit back harder. Where Dominion weapons were precise, the Nightmare fleet's cobbled together weapons were brutal. They didn't elegantly disable, they tore apart. 3 Dominion warships were destroyed in the first 10 minutes. A 4th soon followed. The 5th, badly damaged, managed to enter faster than light travel, escaping back toward Earth. Should we pursue? Tom asked from his fighter command. No, Jack said. Let them go. Let them tell the others what they saw. As the human crews cheered their victory, Jack turned to Lisa. Get me damage reports. We need repairs before they come back. His eyes were hard. And they will come back. With everything they have. Lisa nodded. Next time, they won't underestimate us. No, Jack agreed. Next time they'll be scared. He looked out at the floating wreckage of 4 Dominion warships, the most advanced vessels in the galaxy, defeated by ships made from their own garbage. 10 years they've looked down on us, he said quietly. Now they'll learn what humans do best. We adapt, we improvise, and we overcome. The Nightmare fleet gathered its prizes and withdrew back into Jupiter's storms, taking with them the broken remains of Dominion superiority. Lord Vex's skin had never shown such a deep crimson. The color of rage pulsed across his body as he replayed the battle footage for the 5th time. 4 Dominion warships, perfect examples of the most advanced technology in the galaxy, destroyed by vessels that looked like they had been assembled from a scrapyard. It was impossible. It was insulting. How? He demanded of the gathered Dominion commanders. How have these primitives done this? No one dared answer until Admiral Chorus stepped forward, his skin a cautious blue. My lord, it appears they have taken our discarded technology and modified it in ways we would never consider. Modified. Vex spat the word. They've corrupted it. Look at those ships, asymmetrical, unbalanced, chaotic. They shouldn't even fly. And yet they do, Chorus said quietly. The surviving captain reports that their movements were impossible to predict. Our targeting systems are designed to anticipate logical, efficient maneuvers. The human vessels moved irrationally. Vex's skin paled slightly as understanding dawned. They've turned our greatest strength into a weakness. Our technology is perfect because it follows rules. They're breaking all the rules. He turned to stare out at Earth through the command center window. For 10 years, he had thought the humans beaten, docile. All the while, they had been building nightmares. Prepare the main battle fleet, he ordered. All of it. We will crush this rebellion before it spreads. Deep in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, the Nightmare fleet was growing. What had begun as a dozen ships was now nearly 100, each uglier and more dangerous than the last. Inside a hollowed-out asteroid that served as their main construction facility, Jack Mason met with his commanders. The room was lit by the blue-green glow of salvaged Dominion power cells. Maps and tactical displays covered the walls. The Dominion is mobilizing their main battle fleet, Jack told the gathered leaders. Over 50 warships, including 3 command vessels. Tom Fletcher whistled. That's overkill. That's respect, Lisa corrected. They're not taking any chances after what happened at Jupiter. Jack nodded. The question is, are we ready to face a force that size? Mark Davis, now Chief of Weapons Development, stepped forward. We've completed the first Dreadnought-class vessel, the Nightmare Prime. It's something even we think is crazy. Jack raised an eyebrow. How crazy? We've installed 12 Dominion power cores, modified to run beyond safe parameters. The energy output is off the charts. Honestly, it shouldn't work at all. But it does, Lisa added, though there's a good chance it might explode if pushed too hard. So it's a ship that might kill its own crew, Jack said thoughtfully. Perfect. The Dominion would never imagine we'd use something so dangerous. Tom laughed without humor. They already think we're insane. Might as well prove them right. Jack turned to the tactical display. The Dominion fleet will be here in 3 days. We don't have the numbers to face them head-on, even with the Dreadnought. Then we don't fight fair, said a new voice. Anna White, former guerrilla fighter before the invasion, now captain of a mid-sized nightmare vessel, stepped into the light. We've hidden bases throughout the asteroid belt. We use them, hit and run, divide their forces, make them chase shadows. Jack nodded slowly. Guerrilla tactics, space warfare style. It could work. It has to work, Lisa said quietly. Because after this, there's no going back. The Dominion battle fleet entered the asteroid belt with weapons charged and shields at maximum. 53 warships in perfect formation, a display of overwhelming force that had subjugated countless worlds. On the bridge of the command ship, Lord Vex watched the scanner readings with intense focus, his skin rippling between angry red and cautious yellow. "Spread the fleet into search pattern," he ordered. "Find their bases." The perfect formation broke into smaller, equally perfect groups. They moved with mathematical precision through the asteroid field, their sensors probing every rock large enough to hide a ship. They found nothing for 2 days. Then a small Dominion patrol of 3 ships reported contact near a large asteroid cluster. By the time reinforcements arrived, all 3 ships had been destroyed, and there was no sign of the attackers. Similar reports came in from across the asteroid belt. Small groups of nightmare vessels would appear, strike hard and fast, then vanish among the asteroids before larger forces could respond. Vex's skin pulsed with frustrated crimson. "They're toying with us. Concentrate the fleet. Force them to commit to a real battle." As the Dominion ships regrouped, sensors detected a massive energy signature hidden behind Mars. "There," Vex said, his skin lightening with satisfaction. "Their main force." The Dominion fleet changed course, moving with elegant efficiency toward Mars. As they rounded the planet, they found what they were looking for: a group of 30 nightmare vessels, including one massive ship that dwarfed the others. "Surround them," Vex ordered. "No escape this time." The Dominion ships moved to encircle the human fleet. Their formation was flawless, leaving no gaps. On the bridge of the Nightmare Prime, Jack Mason watched the track close. "All ships, hold position," he ordered. "Wait for my signal." Tom Fletcher's voice came over the comm from his fighter squadron. "They outnumber us almost 2 to 1, Captain." "Numbers aren't everything," Jack replied. "Lisa, is the primary weapon ready?" At the engineering station, Lisa's fingers flew over controls that were part Dominion, part human. "Ready, but unstable. We'll get 1 shot before the cores need to cool." "1 shot is all we need," Jack said. He opened a channel to the entire fleet. "All vessels, prepare for Plan Nightmare. On my mark." The Dominion fleet finished their encirclement. From his command ship, Lord Vex allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. His skin glowed golden with confidence. "Open fire," he ordered. At that exact moment, Jack gave his command. "Mark." The nightmare vessels scattered in all directions, but not randomly. They moved in a carefully choreographed chaos, creating gaps in very specific places. Before the Dominion gunners could adjust their aim, the massive Nightmare Prime fired its main weapon. No one, not even its creators, were prepared for what happened. The 12 overcharged Dominion cores released their energy not in a clean beam, but in a chaotic wave that tore through space itself. Where it touched Dominion ships, their perfect hulls simply came apart, their elegant systems overloaded by raw, uncontrolled power. 15 Dominion warships were destroyed in that single shot. The Nightmare Prime shuddered violently, its systems overheating. Warning lights flashed across its bridge as Lisa fought to prevent a core meltdown. "All ships, attack pattern Sigma," Jack ordered, gripping his chair as the flagship shook around him. "Hit them while they're shocked." The remaining nightmare vessels swarmed the Dominion fleet. What they lacked in numbers, they made up for in sheer unpredictability. Where Dominion captains hesitated, following protocols and waiting for orders, the human commanders improvised, taking whatever openings they found. From his command ship, Vex watched in horror as his perfect fleet was torn apart by vessels that shouldn't even function. His golden skin had faded to a sickly white. "Retreat," he ordered, his voice barely audible. Then louder, "All ships, retreat immediately." The surviving Dominion vessels broke formation, abandoning their elegant battle plans as they fled toward Earth. Behind them, the Nightmare fleet regrouped around their damaged flagship. Jack looked at the tactical display, showing the retreating enemy ships. "Pursue." "The Prime's cores need time to stabilize," Lisa reported. "We push them now. We might lose the ship." Jack nodded. "Let them run. They know what we can do now." He turned to his communications officer. "Send a message to Earth, to all humans. Tell them it's time to stand up. As the Nightmare fleet moved to safer positions to make repairs, the message spread across human settlements throughout the solar system. The Nightmares were coming home. Earth's night sky lit up as ships descended through the atmosphere. Not the elegant purple vessels of the Dominion, but the rough, misshapen shadows of the Nightmare fleet. Across the planet, humans poured into streets, looking upward with hope for the first time in a decade. In the Dominion Command Center, Lord Vex stood surrounded by his remaining officers. Through the windows, they could see the approaching human fleet. His skin had settled into a pale blue, the color of defeat. "How many ships?" he asked quietly. "Over 200, an officer replied. "They've been building them in hidden facilities throughout the solar system. We never knew." Vex closed his eyes briefly, half his battle fleet destroyed. The remaining ships damaged and demoralized. The Dominion's hold on Earth was slipping away. "Open a channel to their leader," he ordered. Aboard the Nightmare Actual, Jack Mason sat in the command chair as they approached Earth. The main fleet had been joined by smaller vessels hidden on Earth itself. Mining ships converted to warships, their ugly modifications concealed until now. Incoming transmission from the Dominion Command Center. The communications officer reported. On screen, Jack ordered. Lord Vex's image appeared, his blue skin rippling slightly. "Captain Mason, it seems we underestimated your species." "A common mistake," Jack replied coldly. "One you won't have the opportunity to repeat." "I wish to discuss terms," Vex said, his voice steady despite his defeat. "There is no need for further bloodshed." Jack leaned forward. "My fleet is in position above every major Dominion installation on Earth. You have 1 hour to begin evacuation. Any ship still on the ground after that will be destroyed. And if we refuse..." Jack's face showed no emotion. "Then we'll show you what nightmares can really do." He cut the transmission. Lisa, standing beside his chair, raised an eyebrow. "You're giving them a chance to leave." "Destroying them all would be satisfying," Jack admitted, "but unnecessary. We've made our point, and we need some of them alive to spread the word about what happened here." Tom's voice came over the comm from his fighter squadron. "Dominion ships are powering up at all locations. Looks like they're preparing to evacuate. Keep weapons locked on them," Jack ordered. "Trust, but verify." 3 days later, the last Dominion ship left Earth's atmosphere. In cities around the world, humans celebrated their freedom, cheering as nightmare vessels patrolled the skies that had once belonged to their oppressors. But Jack knew it wasn't over. "They'll be back," he told his commanders as they gathered in what had once been the Dominion's command center. "Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next year, but they'll be back. The Dominion controls hundreds of worlds. They can't let this rebellion stand." "We'll be ready," Tom said confidently. "No," Jack shook his head. "We need to end this permanently. We need to take the fight to them." Lisa frowned. "Our ships don't have the range to reach Dominion territory." "Not yet," Jack agreed. "But we have their technology now. They're intact ships. We can learn, adapt, improve." Mark Davis, who had been studying captured Dominion databases, looked up from his screen. "There may be another way. According to this, the Dominion is holding a High Council meeting in 3 weeks. All major leaders will be there, including those from other conquered worlds." Jack's eyes narrowed. "Where?" "A space station at the edge of our solar system. They built it in secret as a forward command post for this sector." Jack smiled slowly. "Perfect. We hit them there. We can end this with one strike." Lisa looked concerned. "Even with our fleet, attacking their leaders would be risky." "Which is why we won't attack," Jack said. "We'll negotiate." The Dominion space station, Eternal Harmony, hung against the blackness of space, its perfect spiral shape reflecting the elegance of its designers. Inside, representatives from the Dominion High Council gathered to discuss the Earth problem. Lord Vex stood before them, his skin a shifting mixture of blue shame and yellow analysis, as he explained the unprecedented defeat. The humans have created technology that defies our understanding, he concluded. Their nightmare fleet doesn't follow any recognizable design principles. First Counselor Moran, the highest authority present, leaned forward. Her silver skin rippled with concern. You're suggesting these primitives have surpassed our technology? Not surpassed, Vex clarified. Perverted. They've taken our elegant designs and transformed them into chaotic, unpredictable weapons. Before Moran could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. On the main view screen, ships appeared, dozens of them, surrounding the station, but not attacking. Impossible, someone whispered. They couldn't have found this place. In the center of the Nightmare fleet was the massive Nightmare Prime, now fully repaired and bristling with weapons that glowed an angry red. Even from a distance, it looked wrong. A vessel that by all laws of physics and engineering shouldn't exist. They're hailing us, a technician reported. Moran nodded. On screen, Jack Mason's face appeared, calm and determined. This is Captain Mason of Earth. I'm here to discuss terms. Moran's skin flashed with brief anger. You dare to make demands of the Dominion? I'm not making demands, Jack replied. I'm offering a choice. We have your station surrounded. Our flagship alone could reduce it to dust. But I'd rather talk. Several minutes later, the Dominion Council watched in disbelief as a human shuttle docked with their station. When Jack Mason walked into their council chamber, flanked by Lisa and Tom, there was an audible murmur of shock. Jack looked around at the alien faces, then focused on First Counselor Moran. Thank you for agreeing to meet. What do you want, human? Moran asked coldly. Earth's complete independence, Jack said without hesitation. And a seat on the Dominion Council. The chamber erupted in outrage. Voices shouted that this was impossible, unthinkable, that no conquered world had ever been granted such status. Moran raised a hand for silence. And if we refuse, then the Nightmare fleet will take the war to your core worlds, Jack said simply, one by one. Lord Vex stepped forward. You couldn't possibly reach our homeworlds. The distance. We've already adapted your FTL drives, Lisa interrupted. Crude versions, but they work. And we're getting better every day. You called us primitive, Jack continued. But primitive doesn't mean stupid. You gave us junk because you couldn't imagine what we'd do with it. Your mistake was thinking inside your perfect, elegant box. We built outside it. We built nightmares. Moran studied him for a long moment. And if we agree to your terms, then we become allies, not enemies, Jack said. Earth gets its freedom, and the Dominion gets something it desperately needs. And what is that? Moran asked. Jack smiled slightly. Innovation. New ways of thinking. Because sooner or later, you'll meet someone out there who isn't impressed by your perfect technology. When that happens, you'll need nightmares on your side. 3 months later, Jack stood on the observation deck of the New Earth Defense Headquarters, watching ships move through the sky above. Some were the familiar ugly shapes of the Nightmare fleet. Others were the elegant purple of Dominion vessels, now allies, not conquerors. Lisa joined him, handing him a data tablet. The treaty has been ratified by all parties. Earth is officially an independent member of the Dominion Council. Not bad for a bunch of primitives with junk, Jack said with a small smile. The Dominion engineers are still trying to understand how our ships work, Lisa said. They keep saying our designs violate fundamental principles. That's our greatest strength, Jack replied. We don't care about principles. We care about results. Tom entered, grinning widely. You won't believe this. 3 other worlds have requested our help in designing their defense fleets. They want nightmares of their own. Jack laughed. And so it begins. From conquered to consultants in less than a year. He looked out at the stars, thinking of all the worlds beyond, some Dominion, some not yet discovered. Earth was no longer alone or helpless. Not bad, he repeated softly, for a planet full of primitives with junk. Lisa smiled beside him. Next time someone dumps their trash on us, they'd better hope we like them. Jack finished, because we know how to build monsters from garbage now. The Nightmare Fleet continued its patrol, ugly and magnificent against the blue Earth sky, a reminder to the galaxy that sometimes the most dangerous weapons are the ones you throw away.